Happy day and grand rising, beautiful souls. How are you doing today? It's Monday, October the 18th. Our beautiful weather is still holding strong. We've had summer in October. It's been absolutely amazing. And I don't buy the climate change BS for a minute. It's funny when you appreciate the weather. The first thing that people say is, well, it's not a good thing. It's climate change. It's like, no, it's not. We've had beautiful falls in previous years. We've had warm falls. We've had cold falls. It fluctuates, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. So people that are buying into this whole climate agenda has really just bought another narrative. No different than the pandemic narrative, no different than the COVID jab narrative, no different than, the mandates. It's all just a narrative. And when you learn how the game is played, when you see the matrix for what it truly is, when you can see past the players, the agenda, through the whole illusion of mind control, you begin to see what's really true. And now I'm not telling you to believe me. I'm not telling you that what I'm saying is true. That's for you to discover for yourself. But the Great Awakening is upon us. And this is essentially what the Great Awakening is all about. The Great Awakening is about breaking through the mind programming, awakening to the truth, pulling back the veil, seeing the truth beyond the veil. Because humanity, we have all been blinded with an energetic veil. We've all been mind controlled, and every single one of us has been mind controlled. And there's some people that broke this spell many years ago, and many have broken the spell at the start of this pandemic. Because what often happens is when something traumatic happens or something that is so big happens, it rattles you to your core. And if your soul is ready, your soul will actually awaken you, will break the spell. It's like you're cracked open and all of a sudden you can see through. And that's what happened to me. At the very start of this pandemic, I actually already knew there was something really weird about the whole thing. Now, I had awakened spiritually many years ago, but what the pandemic did for me is it just continued to awaken me to a much, much deeper level. So deep that I began to do my own research and discover all of the revelations, all of the truths that have been essentially hidden from humanity, but are now coming to the surface to be seen. And those with eyes to see and souls that are ready for this journey have awakened to this truth. So if you're sitting here wondering, oh, she's just a tinfoil hat, or oh, she's just a conspiracy theorist, well, you know what I'm going to say to that? I am very thankful to wear a tinfoil hat because it's a lot better than wearing a blindfold. And that's all I'm going to say. So, beautiful weather, beautiful fall. My intuition is telling me that we are going to have a cold winter ahead of us here in Canada, probably really, really cold, colder than we've had. But we've had some pretty cold winters. And here's the funny thing, for all of those people that have bought into this climate agenda, have you actually done your research? Have you actually gone back and looked at data before the last 20 years? Before the last 30 years? Before the last 50 years? Have you actually done your research? Because if you do your research like I have, and you go back to the 1800s, the early 1900s, we had some pretty crazy weather. We had some of the hottest years and some of the coldest years on record. In fact, I believe it was 1939 or 35. I could be mistaken with the dates, but I mean, go and check it out yourself. That North America had one of the driest, hottest summers on record ever. And that thousands of people died because of this heat wave that caused the biggest drought. Now, why aren't they talking about that? When they put out their climate statistics, they're only putting down the last maybe 20 years, and they're just looking at the fluctuations in the last 20 years. And they're like, oh my God, look at the spikes in this. Look at the spikes in heat. Look at the spikes in droughts. But if you go back before 20 years, you're going to see that we've gone through these cycles many times over. We've had ice ages, we've had hot ages, we've had everything in between. So what we're going through is really nothing new. It's just part of the cycle we're going through. And Mother Earth, who is a sentient being, she's an energetic being. She's constantly trying to regulate her energy. And so when she goes through these fluctuations of hot and cold and whatever, it's simply her balancing out. It's just a balancing out of energy. So if we've had extreme heat, we're going to have some extreme cold to balance it out. It's just part of how the energy works, right? It's just like you have to have light and you have to have dark in order to balance the energy. So part of this global agenda is really just to push the narrative, to get people sucked into having to buy an electric car. You see, at the end of the day, every time they push a narrative, it's because at the end of that narrative, there's somebody that's going to be benefiting financially. And with this agenda, it's the elites, it's the cabal, it's the globalists that are benefiting because, well, who's benefiting from the purchase of electric vehicles? Somebody at the end of that is making a ton of money. And then, who's making money every time they put out a new legislation, climate this and carbon tax, and we got to tax you on the air you breathe. We got to tax you on this. And every time they come up with another cockamamie story is they got to tax you because you're the bad one. You're the one that's responsible for this climate change. You know, why aren't they going after the real polluters of the world? Why aren't they going after the corporations that pollute our water and our air, that pollute our food? Why aren't they going after those corporations? Because those corporations are part of the entire globalist government. They all benefit each other because when a corporation brings in multi-billion dollars, that money goes to all of the people that own those corporations. And who owns those corporations? Well, it's the Vanguards and the BlackRocks and the Rothschilds and the Bilderbergs and the Soros. The people at the top of the pyramid always benefit. They always benefit from a world disaster, or from a scary pandemic, or from a scary global agenda. There's always somebody at the end collecting the money. And we, the suckers on this earth who buy into all of this BS, are the ones who support them. We become the slaves to an enslaved system through taxes, through rules and regulations and mandates and extra taxes and extra limitations on our freedoms. I mean, you have to be asking yourself, how many more taxes are they going to put on us? The fuel tax, the surcharge tax, the environmental tax. It's a tax on top tax on top of tax. And yet, where does all of that tax money go? Has anybody ever discovered or found out where that money really goes? Because it doesn't go to what they say it's going to. Those taxes are really just a way of them stealing money from you legally. You see, they can fraud from you by calling it a tax. Otherwise, they would all be arrested. When somebody steals money from you, they go to jail for stealing, for frauding or money laundering. But when they do it under the guise of corporate policy, governmental policy, legislation, under climate agenda and carbon tax and income tax and, all of these taxes that they put on you as a human, that is all a form of money laundering and fraud. And we, the people, have no clue. We just continue to pay without even questioning it. And then even if you are questioning it, you're continuing to pay without really asking the questions. Why aren't people standing up and demanding our governments show us with full 100% transparency where our money goes? Why aren't we asking our politicians, our mayors, our city councilors, our school trustees, our premiers, our minister of finance, our government as a whole, our prime minister, every single person that gets paid by we the people, because we pay them to run this country, and yet nobody holds them accountable for the crimes they're committing. Our elections are a complete fraud. They continue to use the Dominion poll systems, which have been fully corrupted and owned by the cabal themselves. I mean, you can call me a conspiracy theorist, but you see, I have the knowledge and understanding through the research and the time that I've put in to discover what is truly going on in this country and in this world. And it is uncomfortable to search for this information. It is a really uncomfortable thing to do because you have to have courage, you have to have strength, and you have to have perseverance to seek the truth. And the harder you seek the truth, the harder people will resist you. The harder people will push you. The harder people will come after you. And there's a reason why. It's because they don't want people to find out the truth. That's the whole purpose of the censorship movement, which is another agenda. They censor people who are seeking truth because they want a society of people to just say, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I will do whatever you tell me to do. That is how they've trained humanity to be. They've began this training as a child, indoctrinating these children through our education system to be a perfect, good little soldier. They've taken away critical thinking. They've taken away the ability to question things. They've squashed people's intuition and filled them with minds full of, you have to do this, you have to follow this, and false truths, false prophets. So my question to you is, are you okay continuing to pay into a system that is stealing from you? Are you okay paying into a system that is continually enslaving us into more and more and more taxes and more and more and more limitations to our freedoms under the guise of a pandemic or a war or climate crisis or whatever other BS agenda they're going to put out there? And if you're okay with that, hey, I respect you because you have free will and free choice. But for everybody else out there who's tired, who can start to see that there's something wrong in this world, if you have that feeling, Follow your intuition. Ask the questions, challenge the narrative, and do your research. And only then will you find out what the truth is. And then you take all of that information and you go within and you ask your God sense, your God source. You ask your inner connection to God to help you decipher what is truth for you. And that is where you will find your absolute truth. There is nobody outside of you that can tell you what the truth is. There's only people that can guide you to the truth. There is only people that can share information to spark something within you to seek the truth. There is only people out there showing you the way and how to seek the truth. But nobody can tell you what the truth is. Nobody, not your government, not your prime minister, not your premier, not your mayor, not your family, not the politicians, not your political health people. Nobody, not even the media. Nobody can tell you what the truth is. All of that is just part of the illusion that's kept you enslaved. The way you find the truth is by breaking through all of that and going on your own journey to seek truth. And the only way you can do that is by stop listening to people outside of you and start going within and listening to you, your soul, your connection to God. The answers you seek are all within. But it starts with taking that first step outside of that box, outside of that comfort zone. Follow that intuition. Feel what feels wrong or right or what feels off, and follow those, because that is God planting those little seeds for you to find the truth. And everybody's truth may vary a little bit, but when you find the truth 100%, you will know it. You will know it with all of your being. You will be so sure of what you know and learned, and the truth resonates in the core of your whole being. And when you begin this journey, you break the spell. You break the mind control spell. You can see through all of the illusions, all of the lies, all of the corruption and the deceit and the manipulation. And you can see through all of these programs and agendas that have kept humanity enslaved for hundreds of years. So you can continue to do what you've always done, and that's okay. But if you want change, if you feel that there's something more, if you desire more, if you desire better for you, yourself, and your family, follow your heart and start the journey. It starts with one small step at a time. And so I'm going to end off this video with blessings to everybody. And I truly, truly mean that. We're going through some pretty biblical times right now. We're going to go through some crazy times. And for those who are awakened to these truths are not going to feel in fear. Because when you know what the truth is, you no longer fear. God does not make anybody feel fear. God is love. God is truth. And anything that is pushing fear is of the false prophet, the false God, the false light. And it's going to be pushed harder and harder on you through the TV, through your news, through your governments. The fear is going to come pretty heavy this winter. And so you can continue to believe the fear and do what you've always done, or you can seek change and do the work and seek truth within yourself. I love you all. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day and happy journeys, my friend.